All right, business owners, in this video, I'm going to discuss how to pass along credit card payment processing fees to clients. This arose because I was doing a cleanup project in a FreshBooks file for a new client, and I saw that on some of his invoices, he had added a 3.5% sales tax to each item on his invoice. But I knew that he was a consultant and shouldn't be charging sales tax likely. So when I asked him what was going on, he said, "Oh yeah, I was doing that for the clients who were paying with credit cards. I kind of knew that it wasn't right, but I kept doing it anyway." So I give him some props for his creativity and trying to muscle his way through the software, but it is definitely not the right way to do it because it creates a liability, a sales tax liability on your balance sheet. And it's never going to go away because you're not going to actually pay the sales tax. And it's not properly being categorized towards revenue. It's just flat wrong. So I had to create a video for him to explain his options to handle this going forward. And so I thought I'd just make a general video for others to benefit from. So in this video, first, I'm going to talk about whether you can even legally do this or if you should pass along credit card processing fees, depending on what kind of business you're in and what state you live in. And then next, I'm going to explain a few different ways to accomplish this inside of FreshBooks. I'm going to explain how to click around in the software to get it done, though I do think the mechanics of how to do this would also apply to invoices inside other bookkeeping softwares if you don't use FreshBooks. So you still might benefit from this even if you're using a different software for bookkeeping. Which, by the way, if you want to test out FreshBooks for your small business, you can get a free 90-day trial with my referral link below. All right, and then thirdly, for everyone who sticks around to the end, I'll wrap up by giving you a free solution to invoice your clients that's going to give them the decision-making power about whether to pay credit card processing fees or not. They're going to have that choice without ever having to have a conversation with you about how they're going to pay. That business client is going to decide if they're going to pay by ACH for free or by credit card. Well, they will absorb the credit card processing fee. It puts the decision on them, and this is a solution that I use in my business for myself, and it is totally free for you to use as well, so I feel good about recommending it. So stick around to the end for that juicy tip. All right, let's dive in. So the first thing I told this client after I cleaned up the old invoices that had those 3.5% fees going towards sales tax was that he had to investigate whether it was legal for him to charge credit card fees in his state. So you need to open up your Google or talk to your business lawyer if you want to confirm things for certain. But depending on where you are in the United States, you may or may not be allowed to pass along credit card processing fees to your customers or your clients. You also need to check whether or not it's okay to do that for the terms of your service for your credit card processor and for any professional affiliations that you might have. For instance, I did a little bit of Googling and I think I saw that different state bar associations have rules about this for lawyers, for instance, and how they handle it. So check and see if you're in a particular industry, if there might be some rules prohibiting this. So that's my first warning here. The next issue I will say is depending on how you interact with your clients and whether or not you want or you're going to have an ongoing recurring relationship with them, you need to decide how charging for credit card processing looks for your overall business persona. Depending on your industry and type of clientele, are you going to come across as nickel and diming someone, or are you going to come across as someone who's, causing them headaches, or are you going to look like someone who's more focused on stepping over dollars to pick up little pennies, and you're not seen as a very serious business owner? Only you can make that call, but I want you to think about it. I understand that feeling of not wanting those processing fees. I really do get it, especially for new business owners who are trying to figure out a lot of different parts of your business all at the same time. In your mind, you might only be able to focus on the fact that if one client pays by check for the same exact service, you make more money. And that seems really good to you, but you need to understand that there's administrative cost to communicating different types of payment structures, or there's a time cost to not using integrations like FreshBooks Payments, which makes it super easy to reconcile your account because it's clearly going to put your payments and the processing fees automatically into your books. Or maybe you need to think about whether you are in a cash flow bind because you're adding friction to those clients who need to pay you because you're making it hard to pay your big invoice so you can avoid some fees. So these are just the big picture kind of philosophical things to think about. There are plenty of cases where the idea that credit card fees is just a cost of doing business is really true, and you just need to get your head around that. All right, so that's the first part of this video that I want to talk about. Can you and should you? So now let's talk about how to do it if you're going to do it. We'll talk about what I wanted to tell this recent client of mine. And this is all assuming it's a legal and an overall wise idea. I'm going to show you 3 different ways. One is going to be adding a % markup to items on the invoice. One is going to be adding a line item at the end of an invoice. And then the third is going to be adding a discount for clients who say they're going to pay by check. All right, inside of FreshBooks, here are the steps. First, let's look at the markup situation. So we're going to have to create a project associated with a client. So you're going to come here to projects. I'm going to create a new project. We're going to call this Operation Heisman. And the client will be Robert Griffin III. After you create this new project, you're going to set the expense markup. And if you wanted it to be 3.5%, you can add that here, click done. There's other project settings here you can investigate, but right now we're just adding this expense markup. But I want to charge Baylor's greatest quarterback 3.5% on his billable expenses. All right, there's a couple problems with this method. When you start your project with RG3, you might not know if he's going to pay via credit card or the cheaper ACH. Or a free check method. So you don't know whether to tell your project to mark up those expenses. It's one more thing to remember, to go back later perhaps after you've had the conversation. It might not be worth the mental energy to do it. Also, you can't mark up services in this way. And for those of you who track time to add to invoices, this includes your time line items. It's not going to automatically add that 3.5% markup to the non-cash line items on your invoices. Okay, but to finish this example, I created 3 expenses. I selected Operation Heisman as the project. So I got 3,100. Oh, I forgot a amount here. This is supposed to be 200. So now I'm going to go create an invoice. All right, so now I'm in the project and it's time to create an invoice. I'm going to generate an invoice. I'm going to add unbilled expenses. Now look here, my $100, $3,000, and $200 expenses got hit with a 3% markup. It's not obvious to the client that that's what happened. It's hidden in there, but this is one way to do it. One thing to note, let's say I also needed to add a service for $1,000. This is one of the problems. That $1,000 for consulting, for awesome service or some sort of consulting services is not going to be marked up by 3.5%. But that is one way to perhaps mark up at least some of the items on your invoice. Hope that is clear. Next method, let's say you want to mark up the entire invoice total. This example could work if you need to create an invoice on the fly and you haven't made an official project yet. What you can do is you can create a new invoice. We're going to bill Robert Griffin III. We have 2 very important items that on this invoice and 1 very awesome service. And then you can just add a service line called something like admin fees or something. And you can get out a little calculator, multiply your original invoice amount, $2,600, let's say, multiply it by 0.035, $91, add that there. And now your entire invoice is marked up by 3.5%. Again, if this is, you have to find out if this is legal in your state. Maybe you can just straight up call this a credit card processing fee. But my point is just how to add that to where it's going to not go to the balance sheet like the example that I had for this particular client and is going to properly be part of your overall revenue. You're going to have to decide if this is how you want to do this. For my client, his customers were aware that they were being charged this processing fee, and he was using the recurring payments feature and had authorization to charge their cards anyway. So this might just be a great solution for him, since he has already had the conversation about payment methods with that subset of his clients. The last way I can suggest doing this is if you want to distinguish between customers who are paying via credit card or not. You can play with this option, but let's say your standard process and workflow is to create a new project for each client, and you always select that markup option. That's how you're going to start off every engagement. And then after you've populated your invoice via the expenses associated with that project, you can come down here to this discount portion and add a 3.5% discount. Now that's not going to work if you also have services that are not being marked up, because it's going to discount your services by that discount percentage as well. So you're going to need to analyze the relative proportion of your invoices that are cash expenses versus the non-cash services, meaning your staff's effort. But I just wanted to point out that this discount option is a tool in your belt to offer folks who pay via different methods. The simplest way to use the discount method, whether or not you also use the market method, is just to price your services higher across the board, but let people know that you offer X% discount if they don't pay via credit card, if that's important to you. All right, so I hope that gives you some insight into the tools in FreshBooks that you can use to properly price your services, given the administrative fees you bear as a business owner. Now, in general, I'm a follower of the KISS principle. Keep it super simple. And usually the simplest solution is the best. Honestly, the absolute simplest way to do this is to not even spend much mental energy thinking about it at all. Just pick a price for your services and pick how you're going to do it and how you're going to invoice your clients, and don't waste time questioning your clients about how they're going to pay or doing the extra math to add certain fees on for certain clients and not on other clients, because you're going to have to remember who are you charging that extra fee for and who you're not doing it for. You can just decide that credit card processing fee is a cost of doing business and price accordingly. Another simple solution is just to use FreshBooks payments, but prohibit credit card payments. I can show you how to do that here. You're going to come here to accept online payments. Oh, and this is my demo account, so it's not going to show up here, but when you had, if your FreshBooks payments is turned on, when you click accept online payments, there's going to be a toggle here that says accept ACH, accept credit card, or accept none. Like maybe you only want them to write you a check or pay cash or something. So you can set this up and use that tool to decide how you're going to, whether or not you're going to prohibit credit card payments. You can turn that feature off for every single invoice that you send if you don't want anyone to pay by credit card. And then the client won't even have the option to add that credit card information. They're only going to be able to add their routing number and their bank account number. So those are the simplest ways to handle it across the board. Your goal is to get the invoice out the door and get paid as quickly as possible before that client pays someone else's invoices before yours, because it was easier to pay another business's invoice. I would say the next simplest way to do it, if you really decide to charge for credit card processing, is just to add a line item on your invoice. That would be the simplest way to do it if you are taking time to discuss with clients ahead of time and get the agreement that you're going to pass along those fees to the client. All right, before I get to that special app that I was going to tell you about that allows you to get paid without facing credit card processing fees at all, or ACH fees at all, I would like to ask you to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment or question below. It helps this channel grow. And I'd like to say that if you need help with FreshBooks, I'm a FreshBooks expert. You need to call me sooner rather than later so your business financials are in order. You've got to take your bookkeeping seriously or your business is not going to make it. All right, I mentioned that there was a free business-to-business invoicing solution that makes it super easy for you to just invoice your clients without even doing any fussing about credit card fees and who pays them. It's called Melio. Here's their homepage, and what I want to take you to is this pricing page. You can send your invoice and payment link from inside of Melio, and your customer has to decide how they are going to pay. It's just putting the decision on them. You still get your full amount no matter what. So when you get paid, if they choose receive a bank transfer, it's free. If they accept credit card payments, they It's free to you. I think you can decide to bear that cost if you want, but you can turn it off. And then there is a fee if you want instant payout, but you get your payment in a few days. It's totally free to sign up and use if you're doing business-to-business invoicing. Business to business. It doesn't work if your clients are individuals. Like say you're an interior designer who has some corporate clients where you're going to design offices, but then you also have some homeowners who hire you to do their personal home. You can't use Melio for the people who you do the personal homes for. I hope that makes sense. Now for you FreshBooks users, a word of warning. FreshBooks and Melio claim to have an integration. I've technically turned on the integration in my own books, but I would give it about a C+ rating at this point. Hopefully it will get better. The problem with it is that the integration is not fast. And so even though it claims to push the invoices from FreshBooks to Melio, it sometimes can take as long as a day to do that. And when I want to send an invoice, I want to finish my entire invoicing procedure right away. I don't want to create an invoice and then have to come back the next day to send it. The workaround for this is all you have to do is create your free Melio account, and then you create your invoice in FreshBooks, and then you download the PDF of that invoice from FreshBooks. You don't send it to your customer. Just download the PDF. Then you go to Melio. You're going to log into your account. You're going to click Get Paid, and you're going to upload that PDF to the payment request inside of Melio. The invoice will be attached, and you're going to email that. You're going to put in the client's email, and it's going to be sent to the proper person. And then when your client opens that invoice from Melio and that payment link from Melio, they're just going to have the option at that point of adding their bank details for free, or they can add their credit card, but they're going to pay that credit card fee. They'll be paying a higher amount than what your invoice says because they're going to pay the fee. And you're going to get the entire amount of your invoice in a few days. If you have questions about Melio, please reach out. I use it regularly. I can help. Also, I will shamelessly mention that the link below for Melio is a referral link, and I always disclose when I share referral links. Again, this platform is totally free for you to use for B2B invoicing. One last quick note about Melio is that you can also use Melio to pay your own bills. See here in this section, the pay section. So if you want to send money to anybody, you can use Melio to do that. So you can see the different options for paying and for getting paid. It's an accounts receivable and an accounts payable tool. All right, so let's recap. First, you have to decide whether you can or should pass along credit card fees. Then I gave you 3 options of ways to play around inside your FreshBooks setting to achieve the goal of passing along fees, or mostly passing along the fees. And then I introduced you to Melio as a way to put the entire question of paying the fees onto your client, and you don't even have to think about it or discuss it with them. All right, that's all for now. I hope this video was helpful on your journey to building a business that helps you live the life that you dream of. I'm Kate Josephine Johnson, and I help businesses build their business legacy.